What's up, everybody? It's Punk Rock Talk, episode 9. My guest today is Suzi Moon. You're listening to I'm Not a Man by Suzi Moon. On our Spotify playlist, Rebellion Noise 2022. If you have not subscribed to our Spotify playlist or followed our Spotify playlist, you should do that. We update it every Monday with new tracks that correlate with whoever we're going to be interviewing on Punk Rock Talk. So this week we've got a lot of tracks by Suzi on here. Her current project and some previous projects. And then some other great all-female bands. Some of her favorite picks, some of our favorite picks. And not just all-female bands. Some are just female-led. But that's the theme here this month because we're celebrating Women's History Month. All month long here on Punk Rock Talk. Every guest this month is going to be a female, which I'm really excited about. Gives us an opportunity to see things from their perspective or hear things from their perspective. If you have missed an old episode of Punk Rock Talk, have no fear. You can view them not only on our Instagram page, but also on the Havoc's YouTube channel. We upload the most recent episode every Thursday. So this episode will be up on our YouTube channel tomorrow. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can get notified the moment that we upload new content there. This episode of Punk Rock Talk is brought to you by Dead and Buried Inc. If you are in a band and you need merchandise, they are your source. It's Dead and Buried Inc. INC, not INK. You can find them here on Instagram. Their handle is at Dead and Buried Inc. Or on their website, deadandburiedinc.com. Again, that's Dead and Buried Inc. INC, not INK. If you have questions for Suzi or myself, you can submit them by clicking that question mark icon on your screen. Don't put them in the comments section. They get lost there. I will not see it. So please, click that question mark if you want to submit your question. And you want to stick around to the end of this episode when I will announce next week's guest. And if you have been tuning in for a while, you may have noticed by now that that's part of the format. At the end of every episode, I announce next week's guest. So make sure you stick around for that. Okay. I'm really excited for this interview. Suzi is such a talented artist, and I've got a lot of questions that I want to ask her, so let's go ahead and see if we can get her on here. All right. I've got that invite sent to Suzi, so she should be joining momentarily. There she is. Hi, Suzi. How are you? Not much. How are you doing? No problem. Grateful to have you. Looks like you might have a little bit of a low connection on your end because the screen is freezing.
I'm here.
Okay, we can hear you, Sorry. So that's the most important thing. So hopefully everything goes smoothly.
Yeah, you know, I totally wasn't connected to my Wi-Fi. Rookie mistake.
That's okay. We've had some technical issues on the show before, and you know what?
Yeah,
It's just like playing a live show. You just don't stop. You just keep going,
totally.
you know,
Yeah, the
and
show will
power
go
through.
on.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Um, I'm really excited to have you on here today. There's a lot that I want to talk about in regards to um, who you are as an artist. Um, Anybody that takes the time to dig into who you are can see very clearly that you're a multi-dimensional artist.
Like an
uh,
alien.
right. Um, no, like there are just so many sides to who you are, not just as a musician, but you're obviously a very talented visual artist. That's evident from
Thank you.
any of the music videos that you've put out. Um, there's obviously a lot of attention to detail when it comes to um, the aesthetic for each video. Each video has a clear theme, a clear message, and a clear visual representation, which I think is phenomenal.
Thank you. That it means a lot to
And
know that that's being noticed.
you're welcome. I can totally relate to that, because as an artist, I think in today's landscape, you really have to wear so many different hats. Um, and it's kind of a double-edged sword, going back even 10 years ago, technology wasn't where it is now. And especially not 20 years ago, where it is so much more accessible for artists to be able to wear all of these different hats. Whereas back in the day, like if you wanted to do a music video, you had to have the right equipment and, the right person to direct it. And it was not cheap.
Sure. It's a lot more, I mean, I think it's always been DIY, but we have so many more tools that we can utilize today, but that doesn't mean that the old school way of doing things doesn't still totally fucking work, because it does. For the new Animal EP, the insert that's going to be holding the actual vinyl, I went ahead and I took some of the outtakes from the cover shoot. I had them scanned in at a scan place by my house. I cut them out and I made like an old school collage with all of the pictures, and I spray painted the background and I added some glitter, and I fucked around with all these things, and then I had it scanned back in, and that's going to be the insert. And when I sent that artwork over to Pirates Press Records, Veek, who's like my go-to at the label, she was like, I love this old school style of putting the art together, because definitely having tools like Photoshop, that's so helpful in getting things like really clear and crispy. But like that classic punk rock DIY thing, that also still has its place, and as far as being hands-on for the videos and the album shoots and the whole concept of my band, I've never thought of giving that stuff away to anybody else. It's all a part of the whole thing, and I see things from start to finish. It'll start with a cover or a color like concept, and then I'll kind of take it from there and start adding different little elements to create this little universe where like I exist and I make sense, and I could be my own avatar, my own fighter, in this little world that I've created. So it's really, really fulfilling to do all that stuff.
I love that you're doing some of that old school DIY stuff, because I feel like that is something that has, I don't think that it's got entirely lost. But I think because of the convenience of everything, like you were saying, Photoshop and all of the tools that we have now, so many of us have just dived deeper into those things, but there's absolutely still a time and a place for the physical media.
Oh, yeah.
And like you were saying, by doing that, it's kind of representing who you are in your universe. And that's really what I want to talk about first and go deep on, is just who you are as a person. What life was like for you growing up in LA, what you were like as a kid, and all that. Let's go all the way back to the beginning, so that
I'll
we
see
can
what I can
get a clear
remember.
picture of who you are.
Yeah, well, I've always been that kid that wants to be in front of people, and whether it's to make people laugh or just to entertain. Ever since I was really little, I had like the performance bug, and I wanted to be an actress when I was a little kid. So my mom put my sister and I in acting classes, and we had an agent. So some of my earliest memories are of being on a rooftop in downtown LA doing photo shoots for my little modeling agency cards and stuff, and going to auditions. I just always wanted to act in some sort of way. And I see music, and especially punk rock, because it's like no rules, you know, you get to create your own rules in punk rock. It's the ultimate performance art, really. And so, yeah, acting didn't pan out for me because as I became a teenager, I realized that I wasn't like the other girls in the audition room. Everyone seemed like a lot more normal and pretty than me, you know, like I just didn't feel like I fit in with that at all. But I was lucky because my older sister had started playing music when she was a teenager and had an all-girl band at her high school called Civet. And I would spend my weekends going to backyard shows with them, DIY shows, all kinds of shit. And she'd throw me in the mosh pit, and I'd watch her perform, you know? And when I turned 15, she was like, I would like you to join the band. Like, we need to get you playing an instrument. And I had been writing songs on my own for a pretty long time. I've got journal after journal after journal of just little songs for this make-believe band that I had in my head, you know. So when she gave me the opportunity to actually do it for real, I went all in on it. And my mom was super supportive of us. My mom loved that her daughters were playing music together and had this project. So she was a big help, and she would help us out with gas money or borrow the family van to go do shows, or even, you know, invest money in recording costs for the early stuff that we did. So there was never a doubt in my mind that I wanted to be an entertainer. Definitely. I didn't expect all of this, you know, and it's interesting because when I was 22, you know, my idea of success was cover of the Rolling Stone, top of the Billboard charts, you know, like a Josie and the Pussycats story, you know.
Right.
And we'll come back around to Josie, I'm sure. But as I've gotten older, you know, I'm 32 now, and I've been so lucky to do music for more than half of my life, you know, like, and it's not gonna stop ever. And it's like, well, wow, I can count all of these successes, you know, and as a whole, like, I've totally lived my dream, like, completely. Getting to tour in Japan, getting our CD released in Japan. You know, I've got a copy of the Civet album, Hell Have No Fury, and all the it's Japanese characters. Like, that's fucking wild, you know? And all the amazing recording opportunities I've had and the people I've gotten to work with. Like, as a whole, like, I've totally made it. And I'm really lucky that today I have an amazing record label, Pirates Press Records, that believes in me and sees that vision that I have, and they like meet me there, you know, and they're like, let's fucking make this shit a reality. So I'm just like totally fucking blessed that I've been able to do this for as long as that I have been able to.
That's so incredible to hear, because I think that, you know, the picture that was kind of put in front of us as kids, I'm a little older than you are, so I'm 39. And when I was a kid, you know, there was so much happening with MTV.
Oh yeah.
And like you mentioned, Rolling Stone, and of course Radio Rock.
Yeah.
And at that time, and prior to that, you know, in the 80s and the 70s, bands could become multimillionaires.
Oh yeah.
Which is just mind-blowing to me because of the difference. It's such a stark contrast from then until present day. But how you measure success is not based on a dollar figure.
Yeah. More money, more problems.
Right. And I think as an artist, like, to be able to capture your creative vision and to put it out into the world, and especially when you have people in your corner that see that vision with you and want to help, that is what success is ultimately, at least from my perspective.
I completely agree. I've had full control of Call the Shots, the Animal EP, and then I've got an upcoming full length that I've been working on forever, you know, and each one, like, those are actually my babies, you know. It's my music recorded my way with my visuals that I imagined, and I mean, I could never take full credit for fucking anything because you have to have an amazing team with you. You know, the photographers that I've worked with, the graphic arts people that I've worked with, my band, you know, like, it takes a village really to like fully bring something to life. And I've just been like so lucky to have these people in my corner that want to help make the vision a reality, you know. But it's a trip for me every time I look at my record, because I've got Call the Shots on the wall, and like that's my personal reminder every day that I've done something like really cool. And the Civet stuff was awesome, but I was so young when I was in that band. I really see that as being like, that was my sister's band, you know, and I was learning a lot by watching her and following her lead, you know. I learned so much. But the Suzi Moon project, like, that's what I've been working towards my whole entire life, ever since I was that little kid, you know, going to auditions or whatever. It's like, I've always wanted to do things my way and be recognized for like my unique voice and the way that I see things and the way I see the world. And what's important to me is just capturing, you know, that crazy shit that's in my head and giving the fans something interesting to look at and something interesting to listen to, you know. My favorite bands like the Clash and the Ramones, and I mean, I'm a huge Smokey Robinson's fan as far as like songwriting goes, like these like greats, and Prince, you know, like these people who, like, there's no one else like them, you know. There's definitely influence taken, you know, but they were their own artist and they like fully realized the vision. Like, who's been better than the Clash at like being like the best looking and the most dialed in art, you know, and the whole package of the show. Like, I really admire that stuff, and like what I'm doing is just contributing back, I hope, to that thread of music and to other people. I just really want to put out something that's like good or good-ish, you know, like I'm really trying.
You know, you talk about certain artists, and I love that you mentioned artists that are not punk rock artists, because I know that you have a wide range of influences that go beyond punk rock. And, you know, some artists that become uber successful, like you said, Prince. I also think of someone like Lady Gaga.
I love Gaga.
They're like a mashup.
Gaga!
They're like a mashup. They're like a mashup of other artists that came before them, but done their own way. Like when I first started listening to Lady Gaga and like seeing her whole thing, I was like, okay, this is kind of like Elton John meets Marilyn Manson meets Madonna in some weird fucked up way, but it works.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, I'm sure on her journey, those were big influences in one way or another. And for your journey, there's these different artists that clearly have impacted your style, not just musically,
Mm-hmm.
but visually. And then also like your own journey as far as the different projects you've had. And for some people that are new to your music, you already mentioned Savette, but there's been other projects that have led
Mm-hmm.
up to this project as well. Turbulent
Yeah.
Hearts being one of them. Um,
Turbulent
and
Hearts is what I like to call Suzi Moon with training wheels, because it was the first band that I was fronting after leaving Savette. So it was my first time like in the driver's seat, you know, and bringing my songs to people and saying, hey, this is all of my stuff. And I'm scared shitless right now that my song is going to suck, or that I don't know how to direct and lead a band to play it the way I hear it in my head. Because that's its own challenge, is getting what's in your head into the real world, you know. And I had never led a group of talented dudes before to play my songs, you know. So I was really lucky to get to play with some people that like really believed in me, and like the whole process was like really gentle and fun. It was like I could bring anything that I was jamming out and we would just try it. So I think that's why Turbulent Hearts, if you listen back to those songs, there are a lot of different styles going on. It's all me, you know, but I was able to try like what I bring to the table. If it gets that far, if I'm bringing it to my band, like it's going to be worth their time, hopefully. But I'm always open to suggestions, you know, to make the song better. Because really, at the end of the day, it's what serves the song. Do good music, you know, and I'm not the person with all of the fucking best ideas in the world. That's not how great music gets made, you know. So I'm really lucky that Sean and Drew and Patty, like they've all got really fucking great ideas and like a natural, like just a fucking vibey essence, you know. And together, my songs sound the best they've ever sounded.
so with your previous projects, like you mentioned Savette, that was
Mhm.
all female band. And as you said, it was more or less your sister's band. And then Turbulent Hearts, you worked with dudes. And
Yeah,
Suzi Moon, you're working
my
with,
dudes.
yeah. Was it a tough decision to to move away from working with an all-female group and to just working with guys? Was that really intentional, or did it just kind of go in that direction and you just went with it?
Honestly, it was totally fucking intentional. Like, after playing in an all girl band for almost 10 years, I was like, no, I need to be the only woman in the room. Like, um, it's that boss babe energy, you know. Why would I share my stage with another woman? No. Like, no hard feelings to anybody. And I did join an all girl band briefly in late 2019, 2020, and it was really refreshing. It was really fun, and I was like, oh my god, I love this energy. You know, I love playing with other women, and it's a blast. But that just wasn't the vision for Suzi Moon or Turbulent Hearts. You know, you have to do different things. So coming out of Savette, you know, I just wanted to be in a whole different band, like something with completely different energy, you know. And I've always gotten along really, really well with dudes, you know. So it was such a fun band. We were just goofing around all the time. Like it wasn't a super serious project. It was definitely like throw shit at the wall, throw spaghetti at the wall and see what happens, and like have a really good time doing it. And then the way the Suzi Moon band came to exist. You know, I met Drew and Sean at Punk Rock Bowling in 2019 when Turbulent Hearts were playing, and then their band Split Seconds from DC were playing on the same day. We were both on the Little Bridger stage, the baby band stage, and I loved their music. I had like sought them out. I was like, this is a band I really fucking dig. I like their songs so much. And so we just decided to join forces, you know? So it just worked out that way that I managed to get two guys from a band I really liked, like as a package to join the project. And because they already had that musical history together, like that was just fucking easy, you know? And then with Patty Bowe, our bass player, I have a really, really long history with him. He played in a band called River City Rebels that I was a fan of when I was 15, 16 years old. And the first tour I ever did with Savette, my first tour ever, we were playing with River City Rebels for like 8 shows, Southern California, out to Texas and stuff. And I was like, my teenage brain was just like, what? I can't believe this is how music works. You get to meet the bands that you like and play with them and hang out with them, you know? So when I decided to relocate from Los Angeles to the DC area where Drew and Sean are from, Patty, who was in New Jersey, was like, let me know if you need somebody for the band, you know? And I don't think a band really oftentimes needs more than 4 people in it, you know? And when Patty came down to jam with all of us, it was like, this is it, you know, and they've got that like brother energy, you know? And then Drew and I are together as a couple, and we've been together pretty much since Punk Rock Bowling, you know? So like, that just worked like really, really well. The 4 of us just jive. And I think that bands like that, they're like once in a lifetime, maybe 2 times if you're really fucking lucky, when you find that many people that like just totally like are like common goal, same fucking energy. So yeah, that band just kind of came out of nowhere for me, and it felt super organic, you know, and I don't want to change any of my members because I love them so much.
Well, from what I've seen in the music videos, the chemistry seems very obvious amongst you and the rest of the band. And I'm sure, you know, collaborating together with music, that is only more evident. And you mentioned Patty, and it's funny because in the early 2000s, the Havoc played shows with River City Rebels several times on the road. And,
awesome.
and it was never like an intentional thing, like we had set it up, you know, like it's just, we happened to be on the same fucking show together, and it was always a blast.
Yeah.
And back then he reminded me of like the punk rock CC DeVille.
Oh, totally. 100%. Yeah.
And then, you know, like 2006 or whatever, it's kind of like a year. I just kind of view that as the year like punk rock just started kind of exploding. Like so many bands were breaking up. Our band broke up and whatever. And so a lot of people I lost touch with. And then when we decided that we were going to go ahead and revive this, I started seeing more people, you know, become my friend on Facebook that I hadn't seen forever. He was one of them.
Cool.
And then I started seeing like he was promoting that he was playing with you. And I was like, what the fuck is this? You know, and checking it out. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. Yeah. And then I just had a conversation a couple of days ago for the first time. And we were just chatting about like how wild life is and the different directions it goes. And I was telling him, I'm just so stoked that you guys found each other because the project is just so exciting. And it feels like that. He's got that kind of energy.
Yeah, yeah. I fucking love Patty. And I don't know if anybody really knows this, but he was not playing bass before he joined Suzi Moon Band. Like, he played guitar in River City Rebels. He played guitar for years and years and years. And I was like, bro, I don't need a guitar player. I need a bass player. And he was like, okay, I'm going to get a bass. And I was like, you don't have to do that. And he fucking got a bass. Okay.
So
and
awesome.
He started learning the songs. And you watch that fool on stage, and he's a bass player. Like, that motherfucker rips on bass. He's built like a bass player. He fucking plays so hard. I've had people come up to us at shows and say, you know, Suzi, like, you're cool and all. And I'm like, and they're like, but I couldn't stop looking at the bass player. And I'm like, well, I get it, because he fucking, like, hammers that shit, you know? And how cool that, like, at this point in his life, you know, I think this would be cool. Like, now he's playing this instrument that seems so tailored, you know, for him and his energy, you know, and it fits perfectly, You know, we're all these little puzzle pieces and we work really, really well together, you know? And it's amazing because like one of the things that Drew brings to the band that I needed so badly and that I didn't have with Turbulent Hearts was the lead guitar playing. You know, I'm a rhythm guitar player. I've never had any interest in soloing, you know, for me to sing and perform the way I want to and like rip leads at the same time. Like, I'm just not that kind of guitar player, and I never wanted to be. You know, I think Joe Strummer had it right the first time, you know? But Drew is this fucking ripping lead guitar player. Like, he solos like nobody's business. And like that with what I have, like the balance that's there, it's so fucking strong because the songs need the leads and like I can hear them and sometimes I'll write little parts for leads, you know, but then he'll play them. I don't have to think about playing them, you know, and they're played right and they sound fucking tight, you know, so it's like all of them are doing exactly what needs to be done to like give me more freedom to put on the show that I want to put on, you know. And that's another big difference between this band and Turbulent Hearts is like Turbulent Hearts was all like for whatever reason we just couldn't find a lead guitar player. Maybe it's because the three of us were just so tight as friends, like an outside person just never really fit. But with this band, each, you know, and we all fucking contribute our thing and it works.
I love that. We're going to go to an audience question real quick.
Cool.
And for those of you in the audience, if you have a question, you can submit it by clicking that question mark icon on your screen. Don't put it in the comment section. You'll get lost there. So this question from Denise MJ says,
Hi, Denise.
Suzi, what female singer is your biggest inspiration?
Ooh, well, I would have to go with Etta James. And I did a post about Etta James yesterday. Singing along to Etta James is kind of where I got like the roar from. She really could roar like this guttural, deep sound that in her own way, it's very punk rock. And I've read some books on her and her life story. It's really fucking interesting and not at all easy. And she was always just that fucking badass woman with this army of dudes behind her, laying down this fucking sweet, solid, beautiful music. So yeah, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, but you know, if you read about Janice Joplin, that's where Janice Joplin learned how to do her roar. Etta James was playing some theater in the town that Janice Joplin grew up in, and she would sneak to the side of the theater and poke her head in and watch Etta rehearse, you know, and that like power, that like big strong power is something that she emulated, and that became the Janice Joplin thing. So yeah, there's nobody fucking cooler than Etta James.
Janice Joplin is one of those remarkable voices that the moment that you hear it, I mean, it can just bring you to your knees. The song, I believe the title is Cry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the first time I heard that, I was like, what the fuck just happened? That's incredible.
Yeah. So if you like that Janice Joplin song, do yourself a favor and watch the Miley Cyrus cover from the Austin City Limits. You'll cry. Like, I was at the gym, I was on the treadmill, and I was like, oh God. Oh God. Miley Cyrus is another fucking incredible voice, incredible talent, incredible stage performer that I watch a lot of her live performances because I mean, that's somebody who's been doing it since she was a fucking kid, you know, and all those ups and downs and all that stuff. And like to be able to go on stage and command that many people, you know, it's really interesting to me. As much as I watch live Prince performances or the Cramps, you know, everybody's got their different way of being themselves on stage, and I find that really interesting. So I watch a lot of live performances because nobody's going to do it the same way, you know, like it's just like writing a song. It's up for interpretation. you know, and your style is gonna, you know, is gonna come through. But I always like to see the different pop stars out there today and what they're doing. And I'll sometimes think like they're not doing that much, but it's really powerful. I don't know if you're familiar with Charles Bradley. He's a soul singer. He passed away a few years ago, and he was discovered later in life by Daptone Records out of New York. And he had previously been a James Brown impersonator. That was like a gig he had for years, right? But Charles Bradley had this incredible voice, and the guy who runs Daptone had like found him, and Charles Bradley was like 60 years old, right? And he was like, I'm going to give you a record deal. We want your music to be released. So very late in life, Charles Bradley had this stellar career, right? And if you watch videos of him, it's so emotional and like spiritual, and he looks so grateful and at peace to be on stage sharing his gift with people. But that motherfucker's not doing that much, even though he comes from a James Brown impersonating background, and he can definitely do some of those moves. He'll just be out there like using his hands, you know, and it's very emotive, and like it's not that fast, and there's actually something really like hypnotic about it, you know. So I find that all to be very interesting, because I think sometimes in punk rock we think the default is just like fast, chaos, you know. But as a performer, I'm always looking for how I can just do something that's like a little bit transcendent from that. And that's for me. That's like my own personal challenge is as a performer, is to like to put on the performances that I want to put on that have soul injected into them, you know. And it's not that I'm darting around so fast that you can't even find me. You know, it's like, no, we need to look at each other, like, and have a fucking moment if we can. So, yeah, that's something that's really interesting to me.
Yeah, I'm actually not familiar with Charles Bradley, so I'm going to look him up after this interview is over so I can dive in a little bit on that. But going back a little bit to what you were saying about Miley Cyrus, I think it's interesting that you mentioned her, because I was actually going to bring that up. Because I know that you have all these outside influences, not just punk rock. And her most recent record, Plastic Hearts, she obviously has a lot of rock influences on that record. And one of which I'm sure you're familiar with, but I wanted to ask you about it anyway, is the Edge of Midnight mashup. With Edge of 17.
Yeah.
The first time I heard that, I was like, I'm so fucking into this, because I love that Edge of 17.
Yeah, yeah.
And then also there is Nightcrawler, which is another song that she did with Billy Idol on that record. I'm a huge Billy Idol fan. So that made me think about you, if there is any artist in particular that you would love to collaborate with at some point.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've got like my wish list, you know. I will say this, I didn't love that record, the Plastic Hearts record. I listened to it a few times and I was like, you know, I really like Miley Cyrus as a performer. I think she's incredible on stage. But I don't know, I just felt like, you know, sometimes it's like you get what they're trying to do, but it didn't really feel super authentic to me, you know. And maybe I'll listen to it again, but I'm a Party in the USA kind of girl. Like like Miley just be Miley, you know.
Yeah.
Like, and I know she's got those rock influences, and I think that's so fucking cool, you know. But both the Billy Idol song and the Joan Jett song, I was like, that's the best you could do, like, with those guys, you know. Like, I don't know, maybe I need to shut the fuck up. But as far as collaborators, I've always wanted to work with Laura Jane Grace. I'm a huge Against Me fan. I love those songs. What a talented fucking songwriter. I think that would be really cool. But at the same time, like, dude, if I could just get into a studio and watch Bruno Mars work for like a day, like, can you imagine how much you could learn, you know? And I think he's somebody who takes like, maybe that's the difference between like a Bruno Mars and like that Miley Cyrus record where, without it sounding like nostalgic and like kitschy, Bruno Mars like takes those influences and injects them into like today, like in a very like fresh way. Whereas I can't vibe if something sounds like a cover band, basically. Like I don't want it to be like just a 60s reproduction or like a 90s reproduction. Like you want to put a fresh spin on things, you know? But shit, I mean, there are so many artists. I'd be lucky to work with. I don't know. I'm getting to work with one right now, which is I'm doing a duets singles, 2 songs on a 7-inch with Billy Hopeless from the Black Halos. So,
Oh, cool.
yeah, and I've been listening to the Black Halos since I was 16, and I've always been a huge fan of his. I love his vocal. Like, oh my God, he sounds like he's spitting in your face, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's fucking cool as fuck. And so Billy and we've been friends online for a while, you know, mutual admiration there. And late last year, he was like, let's do a duet. And I was like, cool. And he's like, I'm going to write a song right now. And I was like, well, if you're going to write a song, I'm going to write a song, you know, and how cool would that be if you wrote a song for me to sing on and then I write a song for you to sing on. And so that's what we did. And we went into the studio separately because he's in Canada, you know, and I'm way the fuck over here. And remotely, he did his track and sent it to me, and I put my vocals on it, and then I did my track and sent it to him. Right now, we're trying to figure out the best way to release it, you know, and what label that's going to be on, and we still got to, like, get the artwork all dialed in. But as far as punk rock collaborations go, like for me that's a huge one because his songs have been wildly influential to me for many years, you know, and I never thought I'd get to work with him, you know, so that's really cool.
That's awesome. I saw them when I was 16, I think. They came through Oklahoma City. That's where I'm from originally. I grew up there, and they played a bowling alley.
Awesome.
It was so fucking cool because the energy was just through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
And at that venue, there was no stage, and it didn't matter.
Yeah.
he made the room his stage.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really cool that you're doing that.
Yeah. He'll joke. He'll be like, you're like the girl version of me. And I'm like, no, you're the boy version of me. Yeah. But there's obviously like we've got a lot of mutual inspiration, you know, bands that we follow that, you know, and we've got kindred spirits in a way. So definitely, I mean, it was really exciting because I had this song that I'd started like 3 years ago, and I really just had the chorus like, love, love, love is a stranger. And I wanted it to be like this like really dark, like waltzy though. I describe it as a pirate ghost waltz. Like it's very dark, ding 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 ding. Like just a bunch of pirates swinging their fucking little metal tin can things around, and I hadn't finished the song, you know, but I knew way back then that I wanted to write a duet. I just didn't know who it was going to be with. And then when Billy was like, let's do this, like all of the lyrics came like rushing through me. Like then all of a sudden I was writing from Billy's character's point of view, you know, and I was able to write through my character, you know, and tell this like love story where like she wants him but he's this sailor and it'll never work, and they're both like love is a stranger, you know, and it's like this battle back and forth. And it's one of the best songs I've ever done. Like I can't wait for people to hear it because that's how I feel. It's like, and again, it's out of the box, like, you know, the box that I refuse to be stuck in. It's an homage to like classic 60s kind of like Doors style, like spooky, waltzy, but there's like a little bit of a Amy Winehouse vibe going on. But then you've got Billy's snarly, spitty vocal all over it, and my scream, and it's just a fucking punk love song, you know, and it's kind of sad and kind of tragic and kind of weird. So that was like a really special project to work on.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about you having a wide range of influences, and we talked about that vocally, but I would like to know, who is your biggest musical influence, and why is it Josie and the Pussycats? Let's go.
Oh man, you got me there. Well, it's really Tom Petty, but it's also Josie and the Pussycats. Yeah. We'll give Tom the front and center though, because as far as songwriting goes, Tom Petty is like the most authentically real, genuine, just the way that he tapped into something like so universally relatable, and like he just does it over and over and over and over again, you know. That's something that I aspire to all the time, and like I will never be Tom Petty. Like that's not possible. He was a special little sweet little boy from Gainesville, Florida, you know, and he was a gift to all of us. I really admire his songwriting style. So sometimes with lyrics, you know, I'll be like, well, what the fuck would Tom Petty say? You know, like how would you like simplify this but make it very easy to understand, you know, because that's like the important thing with songs. Like you don't want your songs to be too complicated. You want them to be like simple enough, like keep it simple, stupid, you know? So yeah, I'll always go back to Tom Petty because I can just put on any one of his records and be like, this is the best song I've ever heard. And then the next song comes on, I'm like, no, this is the best song I've ever heard. But growing up, because people always ask me like, who are your like female rock and roll influences? Like it had to be Joan Jett, right? And I'm like, I didn't even know who the fuck Joan Jett was until I was like 18 years old, you know, maybe 17, whatever, you know, but it was Josie and the Pussycats first, because like, that was 2002, and I was 12, 13 years old, and that movie came out, and I went to Target with my sister, and I got the little ears, you know, and we went and we saw it in the theater. Bye, baby, I love you. My boyfriend has left the building.
Tell him I love you too.
He loves you. Everybody loves you. No, it was a little tense in my house because we have a really small house, and I've got my brother staying with us, and then Drew's over there, and I just needed like a little bit of Suzi space so I can just do the thing I need to do today. And I'm like trying not to be a fucking bitch to everybody in the house, but it's like everybody knew what time I had to do this. Okay? Don't ask me any fucking questions right now. Like, I just be quiet. That's all I ask for, you know? It's tough sometimes in a small apartment, but we make it work. Anyway, so Josie and Pussycats was like my first time ever seeing women with guitars, you know, other than like my sister who played her guitar at the house and stuff. But yeah, I was way too young to be a part of like that, like 90s riot girl grungy thing, and like I had heard of Hole through my sister, you know, so I knew a little bit about Courtney Love, but like really Josie and the Pussycats were the first girl band that ever entered my fucking brain and my life and totally changed me forever. I'm a huge fan of the soundtrack, and I think most people know that I love that soundtrack like more than life itself. I'm a sucker for a really well-written pop song. Like, that's why I love pop music. That's why I love soul music. I love all music, all the fucking music. Just give me a fucking good song with a hook and some like balls in it, you know? And from start to finish, that Josie and the Pussycat soundtrack is like one of the most well-crafted records I've ever heard in my entire life. And it's fucked up that it's by a band that doesn't actually exist. I could never go see them perform, you know?
So my best friend and I, Justin, who's one of the guitarists in our band, when that movie came out, you know, we were, I think, 19, you know, maybe 20. And, you know, we're like, wow, hot chicks and like a punk band movie.
Right?
Like, what is... and so I just remember thinking that movie was ridiculous and hilarious.
Oh, yeah. It's so funny. It's so fucking smart.
Yeah. But also, like, from a musician's perspective, I was like, these songs are so goddamn hooky, it's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Especially for, like you said, a band that doesn't even exist. So Justin and I, we had that soundtrack in like our stack of CDs collection. And when we were on tour, we'd listen to that on the road constantly, just because it's such an easy listen. It's a fun listen. And you would think like, oh, these guys, they're hardcore punk. They're not going to listen to that shit. No, we fucking
They
loved
love
that.
it. They love it. Yeah. Well, because they're
Yeah,
really well-written
so funny.
songs. And somebody commented Letters to Cleo did the soundtrack, and it wasn't the full band Letters to Cleo. It was Kay Hanley who sang the vocals as Josie. But they brought in the if you look on the wiki page, there's like 20 different songwriters, like from all over, that they would have these songwriting sessions. I've dove so deep into this, right? They did these songwriting sessions. They spent a lot of time working out the songs. Kay Hanley sang all of the songs, but they had different musicians on different tracks. They had, different producers doing different tracks, and they really culled all of these great songs from all of these great songwriters. What's that guy? He passed away, unfortunately, a few years ago. Actually, I think it was like one of the early like COVID deaths. The guy from Fountains of Wayne, right? I want to say it was that guy. Yeah, who helped write a lot of those songs as well. And a few years ago, they actually did a big Josie and the Pussycats event in downtown LA and got a lot of those players together, and they did the full record, and I was out of town. I didn't get to go, which is like heartbreaking, but yeah, I always go back to that record if I'm doing warm-ups before a show or before recording, because they're so sweet and straight to the point, but there's a lot of emotion in those songs. And fuck, man, like, I mean, Gold Record Autograph, my new track, like, I took Josie and the Pussycats into the studio, and I was telling our engineer, I'm like, you haven't heard this? Like, this is exactly what I'm going for. Like, we need some of that energy, And he was like, no, I'll check it out. And he's texting me the next day, fuck, this is really fucking good. I'm like, yeah, I think Josie and the Pussycats meets Elvis Costello and the Attractions, and then somehow somebody said it sounded like the Go-Go's, and I was like, fine, that's great. That's actually great. That's so perfect. Like, not at all what we had planned, but I'm super fucking happy if that's something that people are hearing from the song, because the Go-Go's are another fantastic band that I love.
Yeah, when that came out, we didn't have Wikipedia back then to reference for anything, and I don't recall the CD insert listing all of the songwriters.
No.
And I was always baffled at who is this band, because it sounds like an authentic band that has the perfect chemistry. And I honestly thought, like,
it's too perfect. We can't have these things.
I thought like maybe they hired Green Day or someone like that to put together these songs, and then just didn't credit them. Obviously paid them, but now we know that that's not the case. But yeah, it's really surprising how authentic that record sounds for a soundtrack to a movie for a band that doesn't exist. Really mind-blowing.
It's remarkable. It is truly a gift from the universe. Like, and I have this theory, right, that maybe they wrote one song and they were having such a good time with it. They're like, let's just keep going. Let's just make this soundtrack a fucking banger, because they didn't have to. They could have just had like one good song on there. But like, they must have been on such a fucking roll with it, crafting this, make-believe perfect girl band. And it's so smart, because it ties in with the movie in such a wonderful way. Like, of course the record would be that good. They were the best band in the world,
Yeah.
And so, of course, the soundtrack is just absolutely flawless. Like, they nailed it.
I want to go back to Tom Petty for just a second. Did you know that Tom Petty had dinner with Elvis every night?
No. Where?
Yeah.
When? Why?
No, in his house, he had a shrine to Elvis Presley
No.
that he sat in front of every night for dinner.
No way.
Yeah, I swear to God.
Where did you hear that?
There was a interview with him that I think was on VH1 Behind the Music,
Mm-hmm.
or one of those similar music documentaries.
Wow.
And yeah, that blew my mind when I saw that. But it kind of makes sense because, like you said, his songs are so accessible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like for him to take influence from Elvis Presley is like, okay, well that kind of makes sense because Elvis Presley is like one of the most accessible artists to ever walk the planet. So I get it.
Interesting.
And then also we've talked about Prince a little bit.
Yeah, I love Prince.
So I wanted to ask you if you had to pick between Tom Petty's Super Bowl halftime show or Prince's Super Bowl halftime show. Oh, thank you.
Prince. I rewatch it like on a regular basis. Yeah, like my sister, she sent me the link for this year's Super Bowl halftime because I don't watch the Super Bowl, and I'll occasionally turn in every couple of years to like tune in to like watch whatever the halftime show is. Like, of course, I watched the Lady Gaga one, and I watched the Katy Perry halftime show. But generally, I'm like not, really interested. And so my sister sends me the one for this year, and she's like, "Look, it's in LA. It's all LA." And I went and watched it, and I was like, "Ew, this is weird." Like, I don't know. It just felt really like, what's that? It's like so fabricated. Like they're trying so hard to be so real, and you can just see how fucking fake it is. Like that's just gross. I don't know. It's just something really disingenuous, about the whole thing. And I don't know. I didn't like it. But I was like, ew. So to cleanse my palate, I had to go and rewatch Prince, just one man, right? One fucking man in the rain, doing his thing. And it's like, I feel better now.
Well, how miraculous was it that rain started to fall during Purple Rain? I mean, like that was fucking magic captured live.
No, God prefers Prince, and it's a fact.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. He was like, "Baby, I got you. I got you. We're going to give you something so fucking cool." And Prince was like, "That's right, bring it on." And then just like, yeah.
Yeah, that performance, I'm one of those that also I go back and I rewatch it from time to time.
Oh.
And I remember where I was the moment that I heard that he had passed, and I was just crushed. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And so pretty much I was on tour at the time. And so at the end of every show, the house engineer would play Purple Rain,
cool.
Which was really cool. But I kind of did a deep dive on Prince during that time too, and saw all these different live performances of that song. And like, he never played it the same way twice. And it's just part of what made him such a remarkable artist.
Mm-hmm. A true artist.
Yeah. Like the genuineness is there entirely.
You know what I love about Prince though, is how fucking sure of himself he was, and he'd go out there and he'd perform like 3 songs, right? Wearing assless chaps, but we don't know it yet. We don't fucking know it yet, right? Because he's not going to give it to you until he's ready to give it to you. And then just like flawless, he'll just like fucking go to the side, flip around, show you his butt for like 3-4 seconds, shake it a little bit, and then take it away from you, And it was like, oh, like that fucking control he had, and the way that he knew how to give his audience like a fucking ride, like he wasn't out there like butt in the air the whole time. It was just like a flavor, like a little taste of it, to get you excited, and then he'd take it away.
Impenetrable confidence.
Yeah, I watch a lot of live Prince videos because he's somebody who would play his guitar but also take off his guitar, and for me, I had spent so many years always having my guitar in front of me. I didn't know what to do with myself when I wasn't holding it. It's definitely a totally different type of fucking performance. And I'd be like, what do I do with my hands? You know, do I roll around on the floor like a worm? Like, what do I do? But if you watch Prince videos and see like just how much control he had and how he was always directing himself towards the audience, he didn't turn away from them a lot. He didn't writhe on the floor. He didn't have to, you know? So there's like this subtle power and a real smoothness to the way he would transition from his guitar to just the microphone and all that stuff, like little nuances and like. So I look to him a lot for inspiration and because I like to look at his butt.
I'm going to bring up some more audience questions real quick. We're starting to run out of time, unfortunately.
Can I quickly grab some more water? I'm so thirsty.
Yeah, absolutely. Do what you got to do.
I'll be right back.
Okay, no problem. For everybody out there in the audience, we're going to do some audience questions. There's a handful of them, but if you have one, you can go ahead and submit it by clicking that question mark icon. We're going to try and do all of them real quick here before we have to wrap things up. This has been such an exciting episode with Suzi, and I honestly could go another hour talking with you easily. But for the sake of time, that you're a busy person, I'm not going to keep you that long. So let's do some of these audience questions, and then I've just got a couple more of my own questions, and then we'll wrap this up. Sound good?
Sounds great. Let's do it.
Okay, so here we go. This is the first one from Antoinette Marie 24, spoken like the dating game. Your new EP is called Animal. What's your spirit animal?
Oh, my spirit animal is definitely my cat. And funnily enough, my cat, she is the inspiration for the song Animal.
Nice.
100%. I couldn't sleep one night and I was like laying in bed, like dreaming about performing at some festival, you know, some imaginary festival in my mind. And I was thinking about what I would be wearing, you know, and these are things I often think about. And I'm like, what song am I performing, you know? And then like this kind of like beat came into my head. I was like, well, shit, I can't sleep anyway. So I got up and I went out into my living room, sat on my cat. I did not sit on my cat. I sat on my couch. She would have been really fucking pissed. I sat on my couch next to my cat. And I was like, oh, I love her so much. I'm like petting her. And then she was like loving it. And then she did like violence, you know, how a cat will just go from like,
yeah,
to like, ah, you know. And I was like, you little shit, I love you. And then the words came to me. I'm an animal. I'm a fucking animal. I'm gonna tease you, please you, make you mine, and then I'll catch you, scratch you, bleed you dry, because I'm an animal, you know. And I was really just writing it for my cat, like just having fun with it, you know, like, because that's what a cat will do, be like, oh, come over and pet me, I want to be pet, and then you know, and then I was like, oh, this is actually kind of cool, and like I had this like little thing going, you know, so I'm just singing to my cat, making up stupid lyrics. And then they kind of shifted to like being more about me and about being a woman, you know. I was on my period at the time, and I remember being really mad about the fact that I have to take birth control every fucking day, or else my body will do what it wants to do, which is make babies, you know. And like that's a huge responsibility for women. If you don't want to have children right now and you choose birth control, you have to take it every fucking single day. If you miss it, it fucks up your body. Like, I don't think people realize what a pain in the dick that is.
Yeah.
And all my body wants to do is have babies, you know? And so it's like this like fight, like constantly every single month I'm having this raging battle inside of my body, you know, and I've won consistently. But so like the second verse, I'm like, I'm an animal, restless when the moon is full. Like that's me being, you know, full of like baby making material, you know. And like, I'm not your little pet no more. This kind of like goes into like being in some sort of relationship or a situation where like you're no longer like being kept by somebody, you know? So like all of a sudden it went from like being about my cat to like being about being a woman, you know? And it's not necessarily like a super feminist sort of anthem as it is. It's a little bit more personal, and you know, it's about quite a few different scenarios that women might find themselves in throughout life, you know. But at the end of the day, I'm an animal. I'm a fucking animal, you know, and I just can't be controlled. It's basically how that song came about.
And the music video for that is coming out tomorrow, correct?
Friday.
Friday.
Friday. New Music Friday.
Gotcha. So
Yeah.
all of you out there, make sure you tune in for that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do another audience question here.
Yeah, and so if people know, real quick, if you don't mind, so when people see the album cover for the Animal EP, you'll notice that I've got fangs and I've got little like animal eyes, you know. So the song, once we recorded it, because like a very deep, like droning, pounding, kind of almost like grungy kind of song, you know, it was like, well, that's the fucking title track for the EP, like without a doubt. And you know, taking a page from like the Michael Jackson book, like with Thriller, I was like, well, let me just create this fucking like thing that's just right for this EP. Like, let me go all in on playing a sort of character version, the animal version of myself. So all those pictures in there are going to be like the animal Suzi. And then when we did the music video, I like reprised that thing. So it's got a little bit of like the Thriller element to it, you know, and it's kind of dirty and it's kind of nasty and it's very dark. So those things definitely, they tie in together, and I'm really happy with how it turned out.
I could talk all day about Michael Jackson. I grew up on that, Thriller especially. Yeah. So that's really cool to hear that you have that inspiration for this song and for the EP. It's really cool. D-Shocker77 says, what drives you besides music and art? What keeps you going?
Well, I'm a family girl. Like, I'm very much a homebody when I'm not on tour. I love my family dearly. We're a small family, but I am really, really close to them. I like to have a nice little quiet house. I like to eat good, and by good I mean like nutritious and healthy, and I like to work out. And you know, I have to do so much output on stage and in videos and photos, and that's awesome. That's like what I want, you know. But when I'm not doing that stuff, like I have to take care of like the input stuff. So like input's really important to me, and being like grounded and mellow, you know, and just having like a nice fucking chill ass life. I'm not a party animal. I don't go out a lot. You know, fashion and art and visuals, like that is so much of me. Like there's not a lot of parts of my life that aren't totally touched by that, you know, at any time. Like I like to make a lot of my stage clothes, but really like on the day-to-day, I'm just like a totally fucking chilled out homebody type person. So, and I just want to make a nice house for me and my family.
Yeah, that kind of balance is super important because it really has a direct impact on your creative process.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
Yeah. Let's see if I can get another audience question here.
This guy's asking, are you doing vinyl? And the answer is yes. The vinyl is already on sale. Who is Finn, you can get it from Pirates Press Records.
Perfect. The Gorley's house says, Suzi, do you know Mass? He's got a studio here in Lafayette.
Yeah, because Mass is mixing and mastering my debut album. And
awesome.
And he mixed and mastered Call the Shots. Yeah, Mass is one of my dearest friends in the universe. Mass is my angel. I love him. I adore him. He is the coolest. And he has such a he's like one of those team members I talked about earlier that, you know, you're only as good as your fucking team. And Mass is somebody who just totally gets me and gets my vision and knows how to make me sound the most like me, you know. I've definitely worked with people in the past who have taken a song and mixed it in a way or put some weird effects on my vocal. And it's like, bro, I don't need auto-tune. I don't need, you know, if I did, like, okay, but I don't. So don't, you know, don't make me sound like not me, you know. But I think sometimes people think like, oh, she's a grungy, gritty rock chick, so it should sound like that, you know. And it's like, I work really hard on my vocals to be decent enough to get like a recording track that doesn't need too much, you know, editing on it. Like, well, let's just record it till we get the take, you know. I don't want to like do too much. It's like taking a photo. You want to get as much of it in the camera as possible before you go to edit, you know. So Mass is somebody who just totally understands what kind of artist I am and what my songs need and does just enough. But it's so much because it's like the balance right there. Like, I could talk about Mass for 100 years and just gush over him because he's just such a talented person. And hopefully we get to make a full record together, start to finish, because he produces as well. We just haven't had an opportunity to do that yet.
Let's see, you got a couple more here before we close this out. DShocker77 says, Suzi, saw you the first time in Virginia at the Fuzz Cactus touring with The Wheels.
Yeah.
What do you think about the Virginia punk scene?
Oh my goodness, that was such a fun show. Fuzzy Cactus goes off. Like that was fucking wild. I definitely want to go back to Richmond, and actually the videographer who did the Animal record video. Sorry, Susie, get your shit together. Okay, the videographer who did the Animal video is based in Richmond, Virginia. So I had met her. She was actually at that show at Fuzzy Cactus and got a lot of live footage of the band. And then I went back down to Richmond and we shot all of the like studio stuff for the video. So Richmond now has a very important part in my heart, and I will be back there as soon as I can.
Perfect. The Wheels too, they're a lot of fun.
Oh, I love those guys.
Shout out to Tony.
Yeah. And
okay. I think I've got one more audience question here. Ricardo
got dark.
Welta says, are you going to upload this to YouTube? The answer to that is yes. This episode will be uploaded tomorrow to the Havoc's YouTube channel.
There we go.
We upload the most recent episode every Thursday. So if you miss an episode, you can always go back to the Havoc's YouTube channel and watch them. They're also still here on our Instagram profile as well. Having said that, before we call it a day, is there anything else that you want to promote or anybody that you want to shout out?
Oh, cool. Yeah, well, I want to respond to the scoffs. They just asked what song did I choose for my duet with Billy Hopeless, and it's an original song that I wrote called Love is a Stranger. And then Billy wrote a song for me to sing on called Communicado. So it's two original songs. Nobody's ever heard them before. We wrote them just for this project, so I can't wait for those to come out. I want to shout out my bandmates, Drew and Sean and Patty, because I fucking love those guys, and I can't do shit without them. Also, Mass Giorgini, because he's the fucking homie. Pirates Press Records. People can get the vinyl at piratespressrecords.com. Definitely watch the video we're dropping on Friday, which is March 11th. And then I'm going on tour, like a lot of tour stuff is coming up. We're doing 8 days with Teenage Bottle Rocket in the Pacific Northwest region of the United States. And then we're doing 26 shows across the U.S. with Ravagers, who we didn't really get to talk about how much I fucking love Ravagers. But we're going to get to that at another time and place, I think. Yeah, so there are just a lot of really amazing people in my life, and I'm really lucky that I get to play punk rock and have all these super cool friends. And I'm thankful for you for inviting me onto the show, because this was really fun.
You're welcome. Yeah, love the Ravagers also. Hoping to catch you guys on tour. Excited to see all of that energy from the songs in a live situation. I'm super stoked.
We're going to have a blast.
Awesome.
Yay.
Okay, that's going to do it for this episode of Punk Rock Talk. Join me next week when my guest will be Renee Blanks of Blanks 77, one of my longtime favorite bands. I love Renee. She's a wild personality. I cannot wait to interview her. So make sure you tune in here next week for that. And to play us out, this is Gold Record Autograph by the wonderful Suzi Moon. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.
They want to sell you high-rise and cheap perfume. Every move you make, videotape. Survival, motel on a country highway. A long, long way from the home you made. Are you gonna go change your sound? Yesterday you were on the shelf. Go ahead, kid, it's your chance to throw it all away. Gotta have it automatic, go record autograph. Sliding radio play, working time in the hay. They say you better not waste your time. Don't play the game and don't just for real. Gotta have it automatic, record autograph.